Welcome to Innovation and Leadership. I'm Jess Larsen. On this episode, I'm really excited to have Guy Horner. He's the CEO of TBA. They're brand experience specialists, global business, $65 million company that's on its way to doubling right now, offices in 4 different countries. But what I'm super excited to talk about is what we met, I want to say a month ago, at his super fancy event in Los Angeles, where I got to see my first McLaren Formula One car in person. He's got a pretty cool event coming up this fall, Vista, Las Vegas, with the McLaren F1 team. Guy, thanks for doing this.
That's a great pleasure. Nice to see you, Jess.
You bet. So let's start off. Can you give people a bit of a scope of 40 years of success at TBA and all the things you guys do?
Sure, absolutely. Well, we're experience makers at TBA Group, and the group was set up in the early 80s. I joined in the late 90s, and we're organized into 3 divisions. So specialists in creating experiences across sport, working with Formula One, with football, with golf, with tennis, other major sports, and then working with brands on launches and conferences and award shows and all of their live experiences, engaging whether it's consumers or whether it's engaging staff and colleagues. And then the 3rd division is entertainment focused. So we do concert tours and shows and one-off spectacular events, whether that's an arena or a stadium show. So we're organized into 3 areas and have been growing consistently over the last few years. We've got a busy time coming up. We're just about to start with Rugby World Cup in Europe, which obviously leads then into Olympics next year in Paris before it comes out to LA in 28. And Formula One is on fire, so we're super busy with that, with Austin still to come this year, and then the inaugural Vegas Grand Prix in November. So lots happening within the group, and experiences and the experiential space is a really exciting place to be.
Yeah. Maybe my first question is, thinking of other founder CEOs today that would love to have a client list like yours, and maybe questions about what it takes to build trust with premium brands. Like, just thinking about companies you guys have worked with, Toyota, Adobe, Papa John's, Kellogg's, Doc Martens, Deloitte, Red Bull, Netflix, FIFA, Arab Cup, I see like Ed Sheeran on your reels. I mean, like, you guys are working with premium brands, the highest profile people. What advice would you have for founder CEOs, leadership teams that are trying to level up the quality of what they do and their connections to be able to work at that level?
First of all, I think it's about being authentic, isn't it? And actually, understanding the audiences, understanding your clients, and giving good advice. Combined with creativity, there's a thirst for new things and new ideas. We're in a creative industry, which is a really exciting space to be. So I think, being authentic about what you do, and creativity is at the heart. And it's demanding because you're not focused on one brand or one event. You're focused on lots of different experiences, but that's great as well because it gives great variety. And it means that you can see stuff in one situation that maybe would be applicable in another. I was at the LA Rams yesterday at the SoFi, which is an incredible new stadium. And really, there's a huge amount that I think when soccer and FIFA World Cup comes to America in 26, we'll really learn, how well it's done in the States. So I think, that mix of ideas of brands like the fact that we really understand sport and we can help them navigate sport, whether that's Formula One or whether that's, golf or football and likewise music and entertainment, so those specialisms, I think, we've chosen as a group to specialize in key areas of what we do. And we've got really deep, strong relationships in those areas, and you build trust and credibility, obviously from what you're delivering and what you're creating. And we feel very fortunate and privileged to be in the industry we're in. It's a hot, exciting space. We feel very fortunate as well to work with the clients that we're working with that are premium global brands or rights holders, creating some amazing experiences that then a lot of fans and consumers get to see and experience. So it feels very real and tangible because we're seeing the activations and the great events happening.
There's so many folks that just want to go to those events, and the idea of being able to get to do stuff that fun for work is appealing to a lot of people. And yet, so many folks can't figure out how to get those brands, those leagues, those teams to decide to, place their reputation in the hands of someone else to conduct the event. When you think about what you guys do special and why it is that you're able to, again, gain that level client consistently over time, what do you think you're doing that others aren't doing, that aren't attracting that type of client?
I think it goes back to being specialist, knowing the space, understanding. If it's Formula One Velocity, our Formula One business, I set up with David Coulthard when Liberty bought Formula One. There's deep-rooted understanding and relationships and knowledge across Formula One that just means that we can help brands really navigate and understand the different layers and complexity of Formula One, or that might be football or other sports, or in entertainment. So I think really the specialists that we've got in the business, really understanding the different territories and areas that we work in, and being able to help and support clients, but also challenge them. They challenge us, and we like to challenge them back, and push the boundaries and find their comfort levels and what brands are prepared to, how much risk they're prepared to take, and what's the right way to go, because you can be very effective on not big budgets, and you can be very ineffective on very big budgets. So I think being smart, having the right advice, having the passion and commitment and energy of us as a third-party agency coming in, hopefully makes us a good partner to the brands that we work with and treasure over many years. And we get the opportunity, as you said, to do some really cool stuff.
Yeah. So let's focus a little more on F1 for this interview. I think in the recent years, like certainly amongst my friends, like where it wasn't getting talked about before, it's becoming so much more of an interest in America. And I'm interested, let's start with this. For the Americans listening who don't know David Coulthard, DC, can you explain like the rivalry with Ferrari and Schumacher and winning all these titles, and just like what a great thing it is for you to be able to, let's talk about your brother, let's talk about DC, let's talk about like how in depth in F1 you are.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up with motor racing and motorsport. My father was passionate about it. It just so happened that Christian and my brother kind of got very keen at a young age, and so followed that passion right through, and was smart enough to realize that he got as far as he could in his racing career, and then went into team management and ownership, and obviously has had great success as team principal of Red Bull Racing. So it's been in the family. I raced hovercross myself, which was a much more amateur sport, but great fun. And then was much more interested in the commercial and marketing side of sport. David himself, DC, was 10 years at McLaren, very successful, second in the World Championship. That's the Halcyon, Schumacher, Hakkinen era. He also raced at Williams and then went to Red Bull. So when Christian started and Red Bull came into Formula One, having bought what was the Jaguar team, David was a driver there with Mark Webber, and helped in the early days with Adrian Newey and Christian and the team they put together to set the foundations for the success that they've had with Sebastian Vettel, multiple titles, and now Max having such an incredible run of success. So yeah, we know motorsport, Formula One well. I set up Velocity with David in 2017, and it just so happened that Liberty kind of wanted to make a statement, obviously, that they had acquired Formula One. They saw great potential in it. So we closed down the centre of London. We had 140,000 fans between Downing Street and Trafalgar Square. We had all 10 teams, first time ever that all 10 teams were together out of a race weekend. And we had a big pop concert in Trafalgar Square. And it was a phenomenal event. It really ignited sort of fan passion around Formula One and what it could be moving forwards. And then, Liberty have obviously done a phenomenal job in terms of unlocking the US critically. I remember when I used to go to Austin and it was sort of 60,000 people and, you'd have to have Taylor Swift there to get the crowds in. Whereas I think last year, 350,000 at Austin. And, it's hugely popular now in the US, and Netflix has opened up, obviously, a whole new way of kind of engaging and understanding the drivers and the team principals and the politics and the glamour and the negotiations, and not just the sort of the on-track action. So it's super exciting. Obviously, it's caught the imagination of American fans, and it's attracting obviously lots of women and families and a much broader audience than the traditional sort of maybe middle-aged motorsport audience. So lot happening in Formula One, and obviously that's just going to build towards Vegas, which will be insane in November.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things in there I want to talk about. Let's start with the Netflix effect and the popularity of F1 on Netflix and how that's affected you in the business, and start there.
Yeah, I think, that's been a massive thing, and credit to Chase Carey and Sean Bratches, who were the first guys in that Liberty hired to run Formula One. They part of, I think, three things they did was the new Concord agreement, the cost cap, and Netflix. Big accomplishments that set the ingredients that have now made it so successful. And I think, Netflix, people were skeptical to start off with. Some of the teams refused to take part to start with. And a few of the drivers have obviously sort of dipped in and out about the editing. But overall, I think it shows, Formula One's a phenomenal global sport, and it's now running over 23 weekends. So it's constant. It's always on around the globe. There's glamour, there's excitement. The drivers are risking their lives. It's high speed, it's thrills and spills. So there's so much there, I think, for brands to get into. And I think, Miami last year, the first Miami race, was absolutely insane. I remember some of our clients were saying, well, all my, fellow CEOs and, big fortune companies, they're all here. This is, better than any golf course you'd find them on. And so it's attracted a lot of attention, a lot of brands, a lot of new sponsors, and that's benefited the teams. It's benefited the teams, the drivers, obviously Liberty, investors, and the overall show, because they're doing more and more and keep pushing harder and harder to expand the sport and do more interesting stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. Another one I want to go back to is hovercraft racing. We just breezed past that. For people who've never seen hovercraft
I was
racing,
third in the world championships at hovercraft racing. I'll tell you, I was beaten by two Americans who had like these Everglade machines that were just insane. But yeah, it was fun. I picked it up at school. It was a school club that ran, that actually Christian was in as well. But I think he didn't like the fact that these things drift, and he liked to be more precise and drive around the corner. But then we 50 miles an hour, land to water. You're lying on your front in like a sort of coffin on air. And it was pretty crazy stuff, but it taught me quite a lot, in terms of competitiveness, losing as well as winning, repairing the thing, the engineering side. And I had a huge amount of fun doing it, and then had to make a decision between, sort of going to university and getting into a career, or not finding the time probably to mess around with that as much. It was very much an amateur sport, but it was pretty crazy.
okay, and then I'm going to go back one more. Your brother, team principal at Red Bull Racing, for, I think we have listeners in, I want to say 120 or 130 countries for this show, but we are definitely overrepresented for US, Canada. for those who don't actually know what a team principal is or isn't, can you give us just like a brief there?
A public face of the team, responsible for the team, team's leadership and success. I think, the team principles, there's iconic people in the past like Sir Frank Williams, Ron Dennis, you could say Jean Todt at Ferrari, who have had, and going back further than that, Bernie Ecclestone himself ran a team, and you've got the Ken Tyrrells, and then the Heskeths in the James Hunt era. So the team principals are the catalysts. They're the conductor of the orchestra. They're there to bat on behalf of the team and protect the team, push the team. The drivers report to them. They're responsible for the commercials. They're responsible for the race team. And more with Netflix, they've become personalities and characters in their own right. That it's quite interesting to see the sparring and the negotiation and all of that business side of things that goes on, as well as the cars going around the track. So yeah, they're biking, and I think it's like a football manager, really. A Sir Alex Ferguson or a European football manager is so vital to the success of that team. In my brother's case, I think he's done a phenomenal job, but he'd be the first to admit, he's had fantastic support from Red Bull and the Red Bull co-founder Dietrich Mateschitz, who really let him get on and build the team and bring the right people in and create the right culture without interfering, perhaps, as you see some football team managers do, where they lose a couple of games and they're suddenly out on their ear. I mean, maybe that seems to be what's happening at Alpine at the moment, perhaps, with Otmar exiting. But that role is extremely important. And there's some good personalities. I mean, Gunter, with Haas, he's like turned into a rock star in the US. Quirky character, swears a lot, but his personality is engaged and resonated. And he's got people waiting outside his hotel room now.
So let's talk more about Vista Las Vegas. So first of all, what's the website? And then let's just give people a brief overview of what it is.
Yeah, well, Vista Las Vegas is something that we're super excited about. David Coulthard and myself came up with the idea. We went to see Zach Brown at McLaren. Zach's a great entrepreneur and marketeer, as well as obviously running and leading McLaren and a racer himself. And so Zach bought into the idea of creating this different guest and fan experience to extend what McLaren and the teams already do with their team hospitality and paddock club. Create something different right on the strip. So we're on the top of the Cromwell, which is Dre's Beach Club Terrace, overlooking the racetrack as the cars come roaring down the Las Vegas Strip, opposite the kind of Bellagio fountains and Caesars. So it's the Vegas kind of money shot. And we've got an exclusive list of guests up there. We've got a Formula One car in the pool. We've got DJs and entertainment. We've got world champions, drivers, mingling with other celebrities and guests that we're going to be announcing over the coming weeks leading up to the race. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's in association with the McLaren Formula One team. So it's, being a part of that whole McLaren vibe. It's great that they're doing well, and the results, Lando and Oscar have had a few really good races recently. So it's great to see them, back up really, best of the rest after Red Bull. So we're super pumped up about it. It's going to be great. There's so many different options around Vegas to watch and view, and LVGP are doing a phenomenal job of putting this race on in a record time. But the McLaren thing is something different, and really premium but informal hospitality experience. You can still get terrace passes. We've got some cabanas and some bungalows on www.vistalasvegas.com, or on Instagram, you'll find Vista Las Vegas or LinkedIn or the other social channels. So yeah, check it out. But it's popular. So I think pretty soon we're going to be at our capacity that we're comfortable with to make sure that our guests are having a great, really premium time. And then it's see everybody in Vegas for what is going to be an insane weekend.
Well, I feel like you did a pretty good job, but you missed a couple of key points. Like, sure, they can meet movie stars and F1 drivers, that are going to be out there. You and I are going to be there. Like, they're going to get a chance to hang
Yes,
out with us.
exactly. You need
Come
to
on.
do one of your podcasts from the terrace, clearly. The view is killer.
Yep. So come hang out with Guy and I. So I want to talk about this concept of the sport plus the fun and like the balance of like, the true enthusiasts versus the people who are there for like the excitement and who are maybe just getting exposed to the sport for the first time, and how you balance that in how you curate an event like this. I mean, like, obviously we talked a little bit about some of the names of some of those movie stars and people who are coming already who are big F1 fans, but who they bring with them may or may not be, right? And so you're making like such a high-end event. How do you make it so it's like it's not just the hardcore folks that are loving it, and like balancing that?
Look, you need a combination of things. You want to hear the cars and see them, but you also want to see the action around the track. So great screens and viewing. Where we are at Dre's, we've got phenomenal LED screens and lots of content, McLaren content, as well as the race feed. But it's a combination of the live experience of seeing the cars live, and then it's the same if you're in Paddock Club or whatever Grand Prix you go to. You'll dip in and out and see some of the action. You might see an overtake, you might see a crash, but on the screens you then want to see the pit stops, and you want to see the action around the back of the circuit where you can't view from. And that's the same wherever you are on the circuit. So it's always a combination of great entertainment, of course, great food and drinks. But then seeing the sport, it's not like going to a stadium, sitting in a bowl and you're there and, you're in the stadium bowl and you're viewing the game on pitch or baseball or NFL or whatever's happening. You're at one part of the circuit. We just happen to be in the kind of the hottest part of Vegas where you want to be on the strip, looking at overlooking the fountains and the Eiffel Tower and Caesars and right there. So it's going to be buzzing where we are. It's going to be a real, sort of hot pot to be at. And I think you've got to provide guests with that sort of multi-layered experience where, you want to see stuff on the screens as well. So it's like some sport, you don't get the atmosphere, but you can enjoy sport. TV coverage is so good these days, and the onboard cameras and all of that kind of stuff. But there's nothing like being there and seeing it with your own eyes, and just actually in real life, the speed of these cars, the risks the drivers are taking. Hundredths of a second difference in qualifying is quicker than a click of the fingers. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, and there's something magic about being there. I feel like these years of COVID have really starkly shown that to people. Like, I think about your fancy party in Beverly Hills. Thank you again for inviting me, right? But it's like you have these TV stars and people from the big entertainment companies and and race car drivers and just other business people, ESPN. Like, that was just like a fun room to be in and to meet all these people. And it's like every time you turn around, you're like, "Hi, I'm Jess. Who are you? What do you do?" And they're like, they do something awesome. It's like there's like an energy that like built on itself being there,
Yeah, Formula One, has that effect. It's glamorous, as I was saying before, it's exciting. There's real sport. It's a team sport. It's not just about the driver. It's all the guys and girls and the mechanics and the strategists and the people back at the factory. And that's one thing I think Christian always does is, make sure that who goes up on the podium to get covered in champagne is spread around the team, because there's so many different people, contributing to any team's success. in Formula One. But it's hot. It's super attractive. And everyone I speak to seems to say they're going to Vegas. I'm not quite sure where they're going to be watching it from. Hopefully, from Vista, Las Vegas, with us. But it seems to be a really hot ticket. And you're right. You get an eclectic mix of people, from celebrities and fans, through to people who are not sports enthusiasts or motorsports enthusiasts before, but have kind of got into it either because their daughter or their son or their mum has tuned in and enjoyed some of the glamour and personalities. So yeah, you find a incredible mix of people, and it's sociable. It's not sitting quietly watching a tennis match or the golf. It's about being part of the vibe, the buzz, the entertainment, the food, the drink, being connected and in the right place, and being part of something. And with Vista, obviously, it's part of McLaren, so it's great to feel part of a team for the weekend, and that experience and momentum and insight that the team gives you.
Yeah. When you think about the McLaren brand and just like the way that they hold a certain part in the customer mind from a branding perspective, you look at you look at those cars even a number of years ago that are these incredible collector's items going for more than $1 million. And, you see like Elon Musk, when he makes all his money from PayPal, his very first time he gets super rich, the first thing he buys is the McLaren. And there's the video of him getting it out of the semi truck. And 15 years later, people are still watching that. What do you think McLaren has done that other car companies haven't done for creating this mystique and this there's something different that, there's something that feels different about McLaren, isn't there?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Elon Musk, because he came to Miami and he was guest of Greg Maffei's, the CEO of Liberty. And, he was so interested in the technology and the battery technology and the electrification side, far more than probably half the engineers there. He was so into it and wired, not interested in the kind of celebrity piece and the fun and all of that. He was like into the garage, quizzing my brother and the technical team on all of the bits and pieces. I guess that's the way the guys wired. But when you talk about McLaren, yeah, going back to your question, it's a phenomenal brand and a business that's had extraordinary success across many, many years in Formula One and some incredible world champions. So it's an iconic brand. And you look at them, the road car division was created, and that separate business, phenomenally successful. Ferrari having an amazing success run, an iconic global brand, and now Aston Martin looking to replicate that with Lawrence Stroll sort of pushing Aston in Formula One, and they started off the season very, very, very strongly. So those luxury car brands, Formula One fits so well. And McLaren is an exciting brand. What the McLaren team, the sort of transformation they've gone through the last few years, and the papaya that's so prominent and goes back to their roots. It's very recognizable. It's much loved around the world, especially as I see in the States as well. So it's great for us to be working with McLaren so closely on a number of projects, and obviously on Vista Las Vegas. But phenomenal brand, and there's a lot of love in the US. Obviously they have different teams racing in the US as well. So Formula One's the pinnacle, but there are a number of different layers in the McLaren racing family.
Yeah. When you think about advice for other folks who want to work with celebrities or mini celebrities, whatever you want to call them, okay? You think about whether you're working with DC, people trying to work with your brother, all the folks, the Ed Sheerans and the people that you guys have on tours and the stuff. What's one of the big mistakes you see people make when trying to work with high profile people like that?
I think that, we're in the business of making people look good. And, whether you're on stage or whether you're a CEO presenting to investors or launching a product, or whether you're a sports star at a sports event. And at the end of the day, people are people, and you've got to be, honest and efficient and make sure that they're comfortable. And sometimes I think people are not so truthful, perhaps. And this happens to CEOs a lot in big businesses, that people around them are fearful of actually telling them the honest truth. So they're not getting the right feedback because people are telling them what they think they want to hear, rather than actually giving their perspective, which might open up shed more light. So I think it's using insights and understanding, but also just being authentic and being honest. And we're here to make them look good. In the live experience business, often you're really only as good as your last show or project. So you've got to make sure it's a good one. You can't go back and do it again. It's a bit like with motor racing. If a wheel nut's not done up and the wheel comes off, you're done. You've lost those points. You could lose the championship. You could lose millions of dollars of revenue from where you finish in the championship. So the risks are high. But I think sort of honesty, integrity, and having a point of view is incredibly important.
Yeah. When you think about organizations, you're like TBA and all of the TBA family there, Velocity and Vista, Las Vegas work. And you've got 40 years of success, and you've got the habits, you know what to look for, you've got the expertise. When you see other folks who are trying to throw a great event, but they just don't have the experience, and it just doesn't come off like it could, what's a tip for events? Like, what are the mistakes you see people make when it comes to big events? Is it not enough preparation? Like, what are the common mistakes for the really high profile events?
What are your objectives? What is your audience, and what's your budget? Because I think often events are kind of put on and the objectives aren't clear. Why are you doing this? Why do you need to do this? What are you going to get out of it? Is it for content, or is it to engage your workforce, or is it to look after sponsors, or so what's the objective? Also, then the audience, you can completely get that wrong if you're trying to engage with Gen Z, and actually you're totally off skew either with performers or artists or what you're trying to achieve. So I think that knowing the audience and audience insights of what the audience wants, rather than what you think they want. And then budget as well. Just, not everything has to cost a lot of money, but you want to quickly establish ROI and what's the return on investment? How much do we need to spend here? How much do we want to spend? How much should we spend? Rather than going round and round in circles. And, you can end up burning a lot of time and cost, and then the output is less. So we always try to quickly establish those three things, and then we're able to be more efficient and focused in terms of how we help our clients.
Yeah. Thinking about this, knowing the audience and knowing the audience's change, right? What's an example of something that you or people on your team do to really stay on top of what's actually hot versus what was hot a year and a half ago, and understanding how things are shifting in generations and people getting older where, these folks bought this for so many years, but now they've reached an age where you still have access to them, but they're not buying that anymore. Like, that navigating the constant change of taste and, just an aging, audiences are always getting older. And so what do you do to attract the new people? How do you keep serving the people whose taste might be changing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, we have our own focus groups and consumer insights team and analysts and strategists back at TBA as part of our creative and insights resource. And then I think working with so many different brands and different spaces as well really opens our eyes up to different audience groups and what they're doing. For example, during the pandemic, we switched to a lot of virtual. And that really opened up a lot of brands' eyes to what, metaverse is a bit of a dirty word now, but Web3 and, all of that virtual side of things, and the amazing job people like Roblox are doing. And how to help clients unpack and unlock that. And, we actually, we have a Web3 metaverse partnership with a team out over here in in LA, and that helps clients because it's still creating an experience just in the virtual world, and I believe they complement each other, and you kind of have a leg in both. It's not a binary choice between one or the other. So yeah, being up to speed with fashion, different trends, and different sports, and the way that consumer tastes are changing and evolving. And I think actually, as you mentioned, Jess, since COVID, there's a major appetite for experiences. There's nothing like being there at a concert or at a sports event or at a work event, a really well curated, engaging work event that makes you feel good and you leave feeling motivated and empowered, and really behind the brand or proposition that is being pitched to you. So experiences are where we're at, and it's such an exciting space to be in.
Yeah. I was thinking about a couple of things that you were saying, and this idea of like people knowing why they're doing an event, and is this for the content? Is this for the money? Is this for, and you think about how much humans want to believe we're logical beings. Like, I have the best product at the best price. That should be enough. Why should I have to worry about the pageantry? Why should I have to worry about events and content and things like this? And like, it actually makes me think about the car situation. So I'm going to put an idea out there and feel free to contradict me. But like, I think about the reputation that a Ferrari, a McLaren, people like this enjoy now, right? And you hear these stories about like Enzo Ferrari, like basically like ran the road car division so he could finance the racing, right? And it makes me think of like Star Wars, like pre-Disney, the Star Wars toys outsold the movies 2-1 or more. But the toys aren't possible without an incredible movie that is this touchstone for people, multi-generations, right? And it's like, the movie is what makes the toys possible, and like in many ways, like the F1 done right is what makes the road car reputation sell the way it does. And like events and content done right is what creates the emotional resonance to, like, it's like, the two reasons everything happens, the reason that sounds good and the real reason, right? It's like the reason that sounds good is the best product for the right price. The real reason is like all of the emotions that I feel when I buy it. Like, I feel like I'm smart because I bought this, or I feel like I'm cool because I bought this, or all the, the emotions that came around the logic.
Yeah.
So I said a lot there. Any reaction to any of that?
Yeah, look, I mean, the critical word in all of that we haven't mentioned in this discussion yet is storytelling. For me, it comes down to storytelling. That might be going to the Sophie Stadium, or going to a soccer match or a sports event, or for a brand. It's about storytelling, isn't it? And immersive, engaging, taking people on that journey. And and that's kind of, I guess, where some of Web3 is going, and actual physical experiences is. It's so convenient to buy stuff online, but a lot of the luxury brands, a lot of it is about actually the touch, the feel, the sense, going into the store, having that experience, being made to feel special, leading that sort of luxury lifestyle, or being in it at a sports event and aspiring to want to go and not watch it on the TV. So, storytelling is at the heart of kind of everything we do. Part of the whole creative thread and narrative that, whether you go to the Super Bowl or you're going to go to Vegas Formula One, or for brands themselves, and then also, I guess, resonating with as we're saying, with audiences, is what's important to audiences, in terms of younger audiences and diversity and inclusion, and how you're really resonating with what's important, sustainability, and how brands are being authentic about that as well, and not just kind of badging it. And that's a whole nother area we could talk on. But someone like Formula One has done a fantastic job around sustainability and looking at environmental impact and really bringing that to light, and with technology and progress. And then with global stars like Lewis, pushing for more diversity and inclusion in the sport. It's there's a huge amount to look at there.
Yeah, no kidding. I know we're kind of winding down. If people want to find out, let's do the website for Vista Las Vegas again. If people want to find out more about TBA, where, and if people want to connect with you on socials, like LinkedIn best, or where should they follow you?
Yeah, sure, Jess. No, look, I think in terms of Las Vegas, it's vistalasvegas.com, or on Instagram, the same handle, Vista Las Vegas. You can buy tickets direct through the website, or there's a link for cabanas and other experiences. And there's still a limited amount of tickets left as of today for that. And then, yeah, TBA is TBA Group, TBA Group, grp.com, and or LinkedIn, at Guy Horner. So yeah, it's been fun speaking with you, and I'm glad you share our enthusiasm for Las Vegas, and I'm glad you enjoyed the event in Beverly Hills. Certainly, the Formula One car turning up outside the Mayborn caused quite a stir, and everyone to enjoy it. So we need to make sure that we get you on the roof terrace in and Vegas, and your next
Well,
podcast will be a much better backdrop than this one of maybe.
yeah. Well, I think we need to give a shout out to Nathan and Arwen at Front Runner that put us together, obviously,
Absolutely.
and the great work they're doing. You know, so, and I'll just tell people, like, I'm stoked about this. By the way, I'm so happy that we can move the business community away from golf and tennis towards something that's actually awesome. And I know I'll probably get some hate mail for that, but like, this is a little more exciting, folks, and I'm stoked about it. So I'll just tell people, like, we've been cooking this up. We're going to do a whole series, everybody, between now and, is it November 18th? Is that race day?
November 16th. Yeah.
16th. Okay. Between now and November 16th, we're going to have a whole bunch more people who love F1 on the show. And we're going to try and get as many of you to come hang out with us at Vista Las Vegas as possible. And then, like Guy said, do some interviews from the race itself.
It starts on the 16th. That's the
qualifying.
That's practice on the 16th, qualifying 17th. It's all late in the evening, so the European guys can still watch it on TV. And I think the show is going to be wild in the evening. And then, the race, you're absolutely right, is on the 18th. So 16th to the 18th, it's that weekend, but Thanksgiving.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, where I want to end off is, you worked with a lot of great folks at TBA over the years. And there's so many folks in this industry around the world who would love to become a CEO and didn't. What do you think's different about you? What do you think you did different that you were the right choice for TBA to be put in charge?
Well, it's a big question, but I would guess the thing for me was taking risks at a fairly young age. And I think you need a bit of luck and opportunity as well, and put yourself in the position to make decisions, take risks, step out of your comfort zone. I mean, I took over TBA when I was 24, and at that age, you probably think you know a lot more than you do. Bit of blind ignorance, and then kind of grew the business from there. I was given the opportunity by the founder, Tony Ball, who retired from the business. And it's a combination of having that opportunity, but being prepared to take some risks, try some things new. Obviously, as a group, we're growing now in the US, as a new frontier in space that our clients have asked us to kind of be on the ground and be present. So I think continually challenging yourself and taking risks, and believing it's possible. And then lastly, that I think is true of Formula One is, I learned this from my brother, is surrounding yourself with the best people, the best possible people you can get around you who are better than you at that particular skill set or task. Have confidence in yourself to surround yourself with great people who can challenge you and help make you more successful. So those things have served me well so far, and continuing to learn and pick up tips every day as I grow my career and the TBA business.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks for making time for this. This has been fun.
Jess, great. Look, really enjoyed it, and see you in Vegas.
You bet. Bye, everyone.